What's up, world? Welcome to the Built for Anything audio experience. I'm your host, Hertz, and on this episode, we are going to talk about Kyrie Irving, who just did an interview on ESPN First Take. I'm going to kind of break down some of the messages that I feel were in that interview. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Okay, so let's get right into it. Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving, for those who aren't aware, he's a basketball player who played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who recently requested a trade. He's a four-time NBA All-Star, one-time NBA champion, and now he currently plays for the Boston Celtics. He was on First Take this morning with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman, which is on ESPN. And I encourage you guys to listen to the podcast. I do believe ESPN has a podcast, so try to catch that interview. And the reason why I'm stressing that you guys should listen to it for yourselves is because right around the time that he requested this trade, and I saw the reaction from a lot of people in the media, friends that I have, a lot of people looked at it very negatively, called him silly, stupid for wanting to not play with LeBron. You had all kinds of athletes chiming in, basically making him look like he was crazy for wanting to, in my opinion, and basically what he said is be his own man. But up until today, we haven't really heard anything from him. And so I really wanted to watch this interview to see if they would ask him the difficult questions and see how he would respond. And they did. They asked him very direct questions that, was floating around in the media. And he responded in kind. He responded the way that, ironically, what my response was to a lot of people who were saying that, there was more to it than him wanting to leave. And, why would he want to play for a different team? This has nothing to do with LeBron, all this stuff. I think he was very good at saying how he felt. But I really do believe that when you listen to him, you can really come to your own conclusion on some things that he really didn't want to just outright say. So what I did was, I took some notes on some key moments in that interview. And, I wanted to address those things and also relate it to what I feel should be the mindset of a lot of people, particularly men. Okay, so let's get right to it. The first thing Stephen A. Smith asked him was, what happened? And, Kyrie's response was that, this was something that's been on his mind. He's been very, patient about it. And I'm going to chime in on this. In life, it's very important for you to plan, right? And a lot of times people around you may not understand how you got to a certain point when there could have been things that you've been thinking about from a long, long time ago, right? So to the people around you, it may be the first time that they're hearing it, but you may have been thinking about making a particular decision 6 months in advance and just been processing it over time, and then you're ready to make your decision. So I totally understand what he means when he talks about, he was patient and he was waiting for the right time. Okay, because usually things don't just happen out of nowhere. There's usually a buildup, whether it's in a relationship, when one person decides to leave after being together for a while, there's usually a multitude of things that occurred that led to that person leaving. It's usually not one thing. Okay, so let's move on. Now, he also addressed it and said that, I don't have an ego. Quote, I don't have an ego. I have a presence and aura about me that is reality based. So let's talk about that. In today's society, people tend to confuse being confident with being cocky or arrogant. Most people are not around people who are confident enough in their beliefs or willing to go their own way or have a certain belief system about themselves. Most of the people that you're usually around usually just go with the flow, and they're not willing to do anything that would put them outside of a particular group. So when he says, I don't have an ego, that's basically him saying, look, I know who I am. I believe in myself. I understand what everybody thinks, but that's not how I think. I believe I'm the best player in the world, so, and I think that that's the mindset that we have to have, especially as men, and people. You got to be able to set goals for yourself and understand that when you reach them, you got to set the next goal. Okay. Let me see, what else did he say? He also said, I'm ready to move on. He talked about wanting to perfect his craft and how it wasn't a truthful environment. So let's break that down. I'm ready to move on. Like I said, people, there's going to come a time in your life where you have to make a decision, where you have to take a step forward. And for some people, it's a very scary thing. Most people choose not to take those steps. Most people will remain comfortable even in a bad situation. And so when he talks about moving on, that's just him saying, I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish here, and I'm ready to take what I learned, and I'm ready to improve, and I have to do that in a different environment. Now, I'll relate this to myself real quick. Those of you who follow me either on YouTube, some of you may know my story. Recently, I just left my job that I've been at for a number of years. And for a lot of the people around me, when I look at the situation, I was pretty successful in what I was doing. I created a lifestyle around it. And it happens to a lot of people. Usually your job becomes your identity. And so when it's time to move on, you got to move on. Now, let's get on to the next thing. He says it wasn't a truthful environment. Now, that's interesting, right? Because to me, from the rumors and what you were hearing was that Cleveland tried to trade him right after they won the championship, particularly at the request of LeBron James, in exchange for Chris Paul. And, he got wind of this now. And obviously they didn't win this past year. And I think from what I heard, he felt like LeBron didn't really care as much as he did. And so when he talks about a truthful environment, he's basically saying, the organization, they do a lot of things and they don't really involve them. And I think when you're a superstar, it's important to, or at least important to the team, you got to run some things by him. And I think he just wanted, I don't know if he wanted the same exact treatment that LeBron gets, but I think when he looked around and he saw the treatment that everyone else got, it was just way different. And again, I think as a man, that's like if you're working at a job and you feel like you work just as hard as the next person, but that person's getting a lot of perks, longer lunch breaks, or, they get in the promotions. And at some point you're going to say, you know what? Obviously, I'm not appreciated here. I need to go somewhere else where I could be treated the way I feel like I deserve. Okay, so that's my analysis of that. Let's go on to the next thing. So Stephen A asked him, did you speak to LeBron? And this one, there's actually a bunch of memes going out right now in regards to that. And guess what his response is? No. Why would I have to? Why would he have to? Think about it. First of all, LeBron James, when he decided to leave Cleveland and go to Miami, how many people did he consult as far as the team went? I didn't hear about him consulting anybody. Hell, the owner didn't even know that he left. Okay? And then when he was leaving Miami, who did he consult? He just did his own thing. Even Dwayne Wade, who's supposed to be his boy, even he didn't know until like the last second. I believe they were on like a plane ride or something, and he just kind of told him, look, man, I'm not going to come back. But this was right when, he was using that post to post basically where he was going to go. I forgot that online thing, which is what most athletes do whenever, Kevin Durant did it whenever they're going to, major superstars leaving to go to another team. They write a little letter. So he did that whole spiel, and he didn't consult nobody. So, and guess what? When LeBron leaves Cleveland after this year, because it's high probability, he's not telling any one of those players either. He's just going to do what he wants to do. So Kyrie obviously looks at that and says, look, when it comes to my life, and this is where, the biggest message is, you have to understand that whatever decision that you make for your life ultimately has to come down to you. There are going to be people that's going to not like it. There may be people that's going to like it. Regardless of who it may please, as much as you may want to please everyone around you, it always boils down to you and what your happiness entails. Because those around you should want you to be happy. Okay? And if you try to live a life where every single move you make is just simply to satisfy others, you are following a dangerous path. Okay? So I definitely relate to what he's saying there. Okay? And he continues to go on. He says, ultimately, it's my decision. And Stephen A asked him, does he care about the perception and what LeBron thinks? And he says, no, I don't care. And again, he shouldn't. Okay, he really shouldn't. I think obviously there were some things that obviously it sounds like came about, but it was obviously a buildup. But yeah, once you're ready, and people. See, this is the thing. I actually tweeted this earlier. People care too much about what other people think. I mean, I get it. It's important to get advice from people. It's important to have mentors. I have people that I talk to when I'm thinking of making a big decision, and I appreciate their feedback. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to make your own decisions and deal with your consequences. Okay, so he's just exercising his right the same way LeBron does and the same way anybody else does. All right, so let's move on. Next thing, another thing that I picked up, Stephen A asked, do you believe you can win without LeBron James? Now, this one is an interesting one because right around the time that he requested this trade, a lot of people felt like this guy was just crazy for wanting to, like, how could you want to leave LeBron? Scotty didn't want to leave Michael, and on and on and on. And his answer was, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely. Again, who are we to dictate to another person how they should feel or what they should do with their own life. At the end of the day, it's on him. And he should be the one looking in the mirror and feeling like he's the best player in the world. Okay? He shouldn't want to take a subservient role. If he feels like he's talented enough and he feels like he wants to know what it feels like to lead a team to the promised land, to me, you should give him credit. Like, that's the part that just blew my mind. And here's another thing. I believe him to some degree when he says, I don't have any issues with LeBron and, it's just me wanting to do me. Because a lot of times what you'll find in relationships is that when two people or one person decides to move on, we have to create a situation where one person was the bad guy, right? And at the end of the day, sometimes it's not that either person is bad. It's just that they're not good for each other. So he may look at LeBron and he may see certain qualities that he likes and certain qualities that he's able to pick up. He talks about his work ethic and him being a professional. He got all those qualities from LeBron and he admires that. But that doesn't mean that he likes every and anything about this guy. And it doesn't mean that those two have to stay together if they don't want to. Every relationship has to be voluntary. Your relationship with your job, your relationship with your spouse, it's voluntary. If you decide that either party decide that they want to sever that, they should be able to. Okay? And so for Kyrie Irving to feel like he can win without having LeBron, that's to be commended. That's how he should be thinking. And that's how most people should think about a situation that maybe has run its course. You don't have to keep rationalizing why you should be in a situation that you're not happy. Okay? Because the saying, you could do bad all about yourself. So this is clearly Kyrie believing in Kyrie. And it's just a shame because you hear the feedback from a lot of players and you could clearly see that there are so many people who are just bandwagoners. There's so many people who they're comfortable with not really wanting to go to the next level. And it's sad to me. From the very beginning that I heard this, I said, okay, he wants to be his own man. He wants to take on the challenge. And I respect that. All right. Now, Stephen A goes on and he says, who are you pointing the finger at when it comes to how the information got out that you wanted to be traded? Now, if you go back to right around when all of this kind of came out, which I think it was July 4th weekend. I can't remember, but right around when that news broke, everybody just had their own speculations. He was away. He was in China. So he couldn't really respond the way other people were responding on social network. And, and I'm sure he's seen everything that was being said on SportsCenter by everybody. And his response to it was, who cares? I'm looking forward to playing my position. I can't wait to make my teammates better. You can't put a price on happiness and truth. This is what Kyrie said. And I think that's very, very important. That's a very important takeaway. You can't control what anybody is going to say about you. It doesn't matter the things that you do. The sooner you realize that in life, that you can have the purest intentions for your actions, but the way others will interpret it can be totally different than what your intentions were. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that people just receive things differently. We think differently. You could put up a painting, you put up these abstract paintings and you ask somebody, hey, what does that look like? If you line up 5 people, you might get 5 different answers. People are shaped in their own perspective and their own experiences. So for him, he understands that the mindset, and this is a particular type of mindset, okay? And I'll dive deeper into this mindset in another podcast that I have in mind that particularly involves one athlete, Floyd Money Mayweather. I think he's a pretty good example of what I want to dissect when I talk about someone, particularly a man, having a ruling class mentality. Okay, so just remember that I bring that up, and I'll bring that up in another podcast. But the more I listen to Kyrie, I get the idea that he definitely has that kind of mentality. And this just proves it. Why try to figure out any and everything that everybody's saying about you? Why try to refute everything? Just stay in your own truth. Be true to yourself. Know who you are as an individual, and understand that you can't always control the narrative. Okay, but you can control yourself. He talks about making his teammates better. And I think the challenge in front of him is going to bring about a better type of Kyrie. Listen, there's nothing better than having the feeling that everybody around you may not believe that you can do something. That's added motivation. And for somebody of his talent and his skill, if he feels like he was being underutilized and now he's ready to show the world what he can do, to me, I think that's exciting. If you can get to a point in your life where you can set a goal that's so big that it scares those around you, and you're willing to put in the constant work and the constant effort to get it done, to me, that's more gratifying and satisfying than simply doing what you've always been doing. Okay? So let's continue on. Now, Stephen A. goes on to ask him, how are you going to deal with distractions? Distractions. Okay, and his response was, if you're very much woke, there's no such thing as distractions when it comes to this. When you're very much woke, that's like woke and coon are like the words that I have been hearing like so much lately in social media. But when he speaks about this, what he's basically saying is that when you reach a certain level, people, you have to know how to block things out. If you haven't learned that out yet, man, you're going to get rattled, especially if you're trying to accomplish something great. Along the way, you're going to have critics, and you got to know how to extract the information you need from those critics and leave behind the rest. You got to know how to internalize the information that you need and discard the stuff that you don't. And, when he talks about that type of mentality, another person that comes to my mind is someone like a Kobe Bryant, even someone like a Floyd Mayweather, who, when you walk into a situation, and I'm talking about Floyd here, most of his recent fights, majority of people came to see him lose. Now, imagine you work hard, you training, and you know that everybody is waiting for you to lose. Most people can't take that pressure. Most people have to be liked. And if you're someone who has to be liked, you're not truly being true to yourself. You're better off being who you are, and those that are meant to be in your life will be in your life. Those that don't, then let them go do what they need to do. You may meet them again down the road, but your destiny is never tied to anyone who is not going to be in your life. Okay? So let's continue here. And then the last question Stephen A asked him is, who's better? I like this question. LeBron James or Kobe being Bryant? And of course, he says Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is my favorite basketball player. I think what I admire more about Kobe is his mentality. I do believe he has a somewhat, the word that comes to my mind is psychotic mindset when it comes to him achieving his goals. And you're not going to come across a lot of people like that. So I do admire that aspect of him. But Kyrie, I mean, it's pretty well noted that, and he talks about in this interview, number one person that he looks up to is his father. Second is Kobe Bryant. And I think that's, they have a friendship / mentorship going on. And I could see where that could develop. And Kobe actually has that relationship with a lot of players. He even mentored LeBron through, at certain points in his career. And I think a lot of people look to Kobe because of his mindset. Forget the play. Okay. I understand that he had flaws in his game, but I'm just talking about the actual individual, his characteristics, his approach to the game. This is a guy who did not care. He had no conscience. Okay. He'll take whoever to the promised land. His main thing was winning, and he wanted to leave everything out on the floor, and he wanted to outwork you. And I believe Kyrie is drawn to that because there's a saying that people of power seek other people of power, right? They recognize power when they see it. And so if you ever come across somebody in your life that you feel is where you want to be, and you recognize that person, and you recognize the characteristics, you're drawn to that. Okay, so usually strong people want to follow strong people. They don't want to follow weak people. And so it doesn't surprise me that Kyrie has that relationship. But I think Kobe, in talking to him, is going to tell him his perspective, but he's also going to tell him the decision is up to you. I have many of friends, family, that I talk to, and some will ask me for advice. And I always try to give them my perspective with good intentions, but I always leave it up to them. And I've had people tell me that, like, what I respect about you is that you're not forcing me to take on, your beliefs, or you're not forcing me to take on your opinions. And a lot of times people tend to do that. You'll talk to somebody, you'll say, hey, here's what I think, or, they ask you for your advice, and they may not take it, and you're offended by it, or you're trying to force that on them. I don't, and I could understand. I'm pretty sure Kobe wasn't that way with him. And I also, at the same time, Kyrie, I believe, is smart enough to make the right decisions for himself. Because on the other side, even when you're taking advice, like I said, I'll take advice from people. At the end of the day, I'm going to make my own decision. And it might be opposite of what that person says, but it doesn't mean that I appreciate them any less. Okay, so Kyrie clearly is a very wise man for picking Kobe Bryant. But guys, check out that interview. I'm really excited for this coming NBA season to see how he does. I'm sure the NBA is going to make a whole big drama and a whole big narrative out of it. But at the end of the day, I feel like he just wants to play ball. He wants to win. He wants to make those around him better. He wants to be happy. And you can never fault someone for making decisions that they feel is in the best interest of themselves, their family, or their career. We do it every single day. Okay, so who are we to judge? All right, so I'm going to leave it here. For those of you who aren't aware, you can catch me on YouTube at Built for Anything. That's BUILT, the number 4, anything. ANYTHING. You will catch this podcast on iTunes as well as Podbean. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace and love. I'm out.